I mean, my earliest encounters with Jane Austen were all via school, via syllabuses. So I had to do persuasion in sixth form when I was sort of 16 or 17 at school. And I guess we had a good English teacher who made us read Emma as well, even though it wasn't on the exam syllabus. And I don't think she seized my imagination at that stage. I really don't. And I think maybe quite like quite a lot of teenage boys, I'd taken certain decisions about what great literature was like, and it involved kind of traveling up the Congo River. It often involved guns. It often involved thoughts of suicide or murder. You know, it was Conrad. It was Dostoevsky. It wasn't Who Shall I Marry? And I did recognize, I think, that it was really well written. I do remember noticing that the sentences were good. But when I read Emma after reading Persuasion, I thought, oh, yeah, but this is another one about who am I going to marry? And I foolishly thought that that wasn't such an interesting plot. I did find, you know, that there was plenty to say in a literary critical way about this novel Persuasion once I got to have to write about it in exams and so on. So I didn't think it was trivial in the sense of in its literary form, but I wasn't interested in the subject matter. And really, it was only teaching Jane Austen that sort of changed my mind. Just not very perceptive, I think, that you know, I was an earnest teenager who thought literature tackled the great dark themes, who thought that, you know, the greatest works ever written were Hamlet and King Lear. I mean, actually, I still sort of think that a bit. But I now think Emma is as good as Hamlet. I wasn't able to see that then. But what I found when I taught Jane Austen, and I had to teach it because I taught the period. Students wanted to study it. You know, I wasn't a reluctant teacher of it, but I wasn't particularly choosing to teach it. And I found something really, I think, extraordinary, which I've only ever found the equivalent of this with maybe teaching Shakespeare. I found this, which is that you take something you know really well, a book you've read many, many times, and you open the page in a classroom with 20 students, and somebody points out something you've never seen before. And that somebody isn't necessarily the cleverest student in the room at all. It's just somebody who's read it carefully recently and has noticed something you haven't noticed. And just that happens over and over again with Jane Austen. And once I started teaching it, it kept happening. And I started realizing this was something about Jane Austen, that her novels repaid minute attention in a way that all literature is supposed to, but actually she trumps almost everything.